We've got one more of these left to go through we haven't covered yet, so I figured why not, and we may have saved the best for last, I can't lie, as today we're doing a deep dive into Trump's pick for Director of National Intelligence Security, Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard campaigned to ban gay people from getting married. She led a protest to ban gay people even from being allowed to have civil unions. She worked for an anti-gay organization that said gay people should be subjected to conversion therapy to cure them so they won't be gay anymore. Perhaps needless to say, but conversion therapy is neither therapy nor does it convert anyone.
So I think the big thing that should be taken from this, aside from the morals and character it shows, right, is the idea that MAGA wants to paint about how Trump steals Democrats who realize how corrupt the party is, how it kind of falls short when you realize these are the kinds of Democrats he's stealing, which again, it's just a weird MAGA obsession to pretend they're like the only party who takes from the other side. If a Republican supports Democrats, they're a rhino and they were never really a Republican. The over 200 like Republican governors and like lawmakers that endorse Kamala, all fake Republicans. Mitt Romney, fake Republican, like all these fake Republicans. But if a Democrat supports Republicans, they've opened their eyes to the truth. But no, like Tulsi Gabbard essentially is a grifter. She saw the rise of Bernie Sanders and thought she could replicate that. She also was in a deep blue state of Hawaii to where she had no possibility of winning in any other party other than a Democrat. And she has vehemently right-wing beliefs. She always has. She has a history of prejudice and discrimination shown here. The brief time she like switched up and like was apologizing and like acting like a progressive. Well, by 2022, she went back on all of those and was just doing them again. And then she also has these weird relations with foreign countries, which I'm sure we'll get into about now.
Behind closed doors, people think she might be compromised. Like, it's not hyperbole. There are members of our conference who think she is a Russian asset, said the Republican Senate aide. Tulsi Gabbard has insisted over and over again that she's definitely not a Russian asset. She has no idea why people keep saying that. That said, Russian state media has described her as a, quote, Russian agent. They've also described her as our, quote, girlfriend. Russian state media also lost their minds with happiness when Donald Trump named Tulsi Gabbard for the national intelligence job. Russian state TV put together a long, detailed, many-part sizzle reel of all the TV appearances in which she has repeated Kremlin talking points.
I mean, come on. Right? How much more clear cut could you ask for? Russian media called her Putin's favorite asset. They hinted at her being directly a Russian agent, as shown in that clip. And they made a highlight reel to support or celebrate Trump picking her. Is there any more proof we need about the Russian infiltration into right-wing politics? They successfully interfered in 2016. They've since bought and paid for some of the biggest right-wing content creators. And now they have an asset as the head of national intelligence security in America. Mind you, do these people just not realize how legitimately scary this is? Like, this is what the right wants, though, through spewing these Kremlin talking points, largely because of Kremlin infiltration in their party. I don't think the voters necessarily know difference, but the politicians do. They spew these Kremlin talking points to try and distract you, to make you think, well, the American government censorship is the problem. The censorship on Meta is the problem. This is the biggest threat you face. This is the biggest danger. Like, oh my God, like you have to stop this. It's really just to distract you from the actual biggest danger, that Republicans are opening the back fucking door to allow foreign interests to interfere with our national intelligence, our politics. I mean, it is so Jover. We're Ruskies now. Like, I need to get a babushka. The snow's never going away. I don't know. This is what MAGA want.
In 2015, Tulsi Gabbard took a trip to Europe with the most pro-Russia member of Congress maybe ever, a man named Dana Rohrabacher. Rohrabacher brought Tulsi Gabbard with him overseas, and there she met with the Russian-supported military dictator of Egypt. Gabbard also famously has defended and met with the Russian-supported dictator of Syria when he used poison gas against his own people. She said it was probably a false flag attack carried out by the opposition just to make him look bad. She later had to pay back the money she spent to go meet the dictator when it emerged that a political party that supports him had paid for her trip. She praised Vladimir Putin for sending in the Russian military to prop up that Syrian dictator in that country's civil war. She's also praised Russia for sending its military to invade Ukraine. She has repeated fake Kremlin talking points, blaming NATO for that invasion, saying there were U.S. biolabs in Ukraine and Ukraine's a bunch of Nazis and all the rest of those Kremlin talking points.
So yeah, that's the other big thing with Gabbard. Not only is she a huge Russian agent, but she is a vocal defender of the Assad regime, calling his gas attacks on civilians, mind you, his own civilian population, a false flag attack, taking money from his supporters to travel and go meet him, defending Russia for taking his side and propping up his regime. And we're not going to do a deep dive right now into the history of the Assad regime, though we did briefly cover it when his regime was overthrown under Biden. If you want to go and find that video, I mean, you can look him up on your own time. Just know he's responsible for some of the most atrocious acts in recent history, many of which he carried out on his own people, innocent civilians, women and children, mind you. And Tulsi, for some reason, was a huge fan of this. Also, as stated, supporting the Russian invasion into Ukraine, constantly falling into the Kremlin talking points of blaming Ukraine for the war, despite, since its inception in 2014, Russia being the clear aggressor, despite Russia clearly breaking the ceasefires that they had shortly after 2015 and continuing to fight in the Donbass under Trump's presidency before she then threw full support under the full-scale invasion that happened under Biden, as she, like Trump, seems to have some affinity for autocratic dictators. And these two dictator simps, her and Trump, are now the ones in charge and will be firsthand looking over classified documents, national intelligence, and our cybersecurity apparatus. I am so sure this is going to be a great 4 years, and we totally won't have a new wave of Russian bots online spreading Kremlin talking points and MAGA propaganda. I can't wait.